Today I had Olympian and Canadian and Edmontonian Neville Wright on the Lifestyle Chase, and I'm going to give you some backstory as to why I chose him, why Neville. And so I came across his profile. We have a bunch of mutual people that we follow, and I think it was at a time when he was doing some public speaking for kids. And I was thinking to myself, I was like, there there's so much need for mentorship for anybody. I think mentors make such a huge difference, and especially when it's like those meaningful connections, when you're getting to know somebody and you're seeing the commonalities and you're seeing how you can overcome things in life. And he is definitely someone like that for people. He speaks to audiences. His whole career story is using his struggles as his strengths in some way, shape, or form. And we dive into that in the episode. And then what really sealed the deal for me, honestly, was watching his posts. And I saw this, one of his posts was he was helping his daughter along a log. And we talked about this in the episode, but he was giving her the confidence in herself that she could get through this obstacle of like a teetery kind of log where you don't know what's going to happen. It's kind of high up and you're just little. But he showed her that she had potential, and I think that makes a great guest. So I hope that you enjoy this one, and thank you for listening. Welcome to the Lifestyle Chase, Season 2. This podcast features high performers who have found a way to live their best life while balancing their health, wellness, friends, and family. I'm your host, Chris Little. Let's get started. The Lifestyle Chase is brought to you by Yeg Fitness. Yeg Fitness is Edmonton, Alberta, Canada's healthy lifestyle community, creating and supporting active living for all. Check them out online at yegfitness.ca and on social media at yegfitness. So welcome to the Lifestyle Chase. This is episode 131, and I am joined by the one and only Neville Wright. How are you doing today?
All right, how are you? Thanks for having me on the show.
Well, you're welcome. I got to go to the gym for the first time in months. What's this whole COVID-19 been like for you? How has it impacted your life?
Tell you the truth, I've always been one that tries to see the positive in most things. And while, it did affect a lot of areas that I work in, such as speaking, therapy, coaching, things like that. But in regards to fitness, I always believe in being extra prepared. So I have actually a little gym that I've set up, like a squat rack, bench, trap bar, a bike, things like that. So, fitness wise, it didn't really affect me too much.
Well, that's a good attitude to have just in general, because when I think about it, we're going to have things like this happen throughout our life, like whether it be a pandemic, whether it be health, financial, all these things. So yeah, that attitude is helpful. What kind of first inspired you to have that attitude? Was it the way someone was a role model for you, or was it something that's happened to you along the way? Like, what first inspired that?
Well, competing as an athlete, so I was very disciplined, and I never wanted any types of obstacles, even though you do get obstacles and challenges, to prevent me from continuing to training to achieving my goals. And I had too many moments where I couldn't get into gyms, access to gyms, and so I was like, this is never going to happen to me again. So I made sure I prepared for that, and kind of got equipment from earlier. And then in regards to my mindset, having positive outlook, I realized that to focus on things that you can't change or control, it's a waste of energy to get into that. So, the biggest thing that you can control is yourself, and how you respond to certain situations. So, usually when you do try and focus on the positive, it helps you keep moving forward.
For sure. So for our audience that might not be familiar with you, there's going to be a lot of the audience that is. But let's say someone's meeting you for the first time. How are you going to introduce yourself to them?
It's very true. Usually, obviously, Neville Wright, and if they ask questions, born and raised in Edmonton, Alberta. If they want to know details, kind of like, or they know my background, or, usually we see like a pretty big dude. So like, I always get, are you a football player? And I always say, oh, no. I played some football, but, no, I wasn't a football player. And I was like, I played sports, and then, I don't try to be extra, I guess you could almost say like, I try to be, I don't know if you'd call it more modest, just because I never want to come off as a narcissist or, fool myself like, oh yeah, I'm an Olympian and this and that. But, if people ask, like I usually tell them, 3-time Olympian, sport of bobsleigh, former sprinter for Canada, and currently, function as a performance therapist, coach, and, speaker.
I love it. And I mean, like, that makes sense. I think when we stay close to our roots or remember where we came from, it kind of helps us to get to that next level. But now that you've shared with the audience about your Olympic experience, I want you to share with me, what was it like to be there? Like, I can only imagine the amount of work that it took to get there, but what was it like in that moment to be there?
To be at the Olympics, I mean, because there's a lot of things that you're going through between media and, getting prepared to get there and setting things up, meetings but when you get there to the village, it's kind of like, wow, like this is crazy. Like I'm here. But for me, I actually, for my first Olympics, I didn't really embrace it or really thought I was an Olympian until I went on the track for the first time. So I was there, went to the opening ceremonies, which was crazy too. You're like, they tell you, just take it in, savor the moment. And all of a sudden, they announce Canada, and before you even were walking out and you hear Canada, I mean, it's just a rumble throughout the stand. And then you get out there and people are going crazy. You're seeing cameras flashing, you see media, and then all of a sudden it's just kind of like, wow, this is like, it's hard to sometimes, I guess, describe the feeling in words. It's just, I just took that time to kind of like, embrace it, but then all of a sudden I switched. I put my phone, and I'm clicking videos and pictures, and I'm waving to the camera and yelling out the family and stuff. So like, it was almost like, became a little kid again.
Yeah.
And then, but yeah, it wasn't until though, like, when I finally went down the first run down the bobsleigh track, then I was like, all right, like, it's official. Like, no one can take this from me. I'm officially an Olympian.
I love that. Have you had to reflect on that moment? Like, you probably can still remember it pretty clearly. Has there been a moment when you've had to think, oh, life is shit, and then you thought back to that Olympic moment and suddenly things got a little bit brighter?
Tell you the truth, I wouldn't even say I would reflect back to the Olympic moment. I would reflect more back on, so like, when things are going wrong, or just, I'd more reflect back to life in general, like, the things that I've overcome, like, because like I said, even though like there could be a lot of negatives, there has to be some positive, you know what I mean? For the fact that I'm able to get up on my own, and living and breathing, I can connect with others, family, friends, I could support myself, I could work and pursue my passion. So I think, when those hard moments happen, I just kind of reflect back on those things, and just my reflection is, being grateful and showing gratitude for all the things I had and the things I'm able to do.
Well, that's important. I mean, just yesterday I was thinking to myself about like I've been waiting forever for the gym to open, but like this whole time there's been things that I have that I've forgotten that I have. If I was to ask what are 5 things that you're grateful for, can you think of 5 things?
One, I'd say life, like being able to be a functioning moving, thinking, individual, family, um, being able to pursue my passions, being able to give back and help others. And the fifth one I would say grateful for is, yeah, I already said health. I don't know what I'd say for the fifth one. Hopefully I'm not missing something. But, uh, yeah, I think I would just go back to just, like, having my health.
Oh yeah, no, and it's like there's no rule that it's like you must have five things. You can totally have four things and call it a day. So when we reflect on things like that, what first got you into your pursuit of athletics? Like, what was the thought in your mind that you're like, I want to do sports, I want to be fast, I want to go on a bobsleigh, all those things?
Well, as a kid, I always loved physical activities, sports. Like, I mean, as long as I was able to engage in it, I would try. I mean, like hockey, football, soccer, basketball, you name it, whatever it was, I just enjoyed doing sport. And, I found that, I would do a lot of them really well. Like, anything that involves running, jumping, throwing, agility, things like that. Like, I did really well in it. And, as a kid, I went to, challenges as a kid, like different things I've had to overcome, and, I found that there was a period in my life where I was just really frustrated, angry, had a lot of, pain. And when I started to engage into sport, it became an avenue, like for, like an outlet. So all that stuff that I had going on, I was able to, ball that up and project it into something positive, for myself.
I like that. Did you find that there were people in your life that made it easier to get more involved in the sport? Influential coaches, teammates that made a difference?
Growing up, I didn't really have anybody like in regards to mentorship or coaching. It wasn't until I actually got into university when I met my first coach, like my actual coach. Where he was very, I guess he was a bit of a different coach where, like, he was very knowledgeable. I liked his coaching style, although sometimes he can irritate me as well too, which most athletes probably feel with their coaches. But, he kind of like really helped, tap into my potential that he saw and kind of like realized that, like, listen, like, you have tons of potential and, yeah, he really worked with me and said, and I remember, because, after my first year of university, I had offered to go on a scholarship for track. And, he was like, Neville, I'm not going to stop you from going, but I promise you, if you stick it out with me, I will get you fast. And I mean, he didn't try to, like, pitch anything to keep me. He was like, pretty much, I want the best for you. So I stuck it out, and lo and behold, like, that next year, I had won, a double gold at national championships in track and field for, university, and then gone on to Team Canada that year, and then kind of continued since. And I stuck with them, all that time then, until the ending of my, sporting career.
That's incredible. I mean, like, when you reflect on him, like, what was it that really, like, made him stand out to you? Was there, like, defining characteristics? Was there specific things that he helped you see in yourself? Like, did you see qualities in yourself that you didn't see before?
It was just his approach, because, like I said, I didn't know anything really about, like, training or especially training for like, for example, track and field. I was just a guy. I just ran out there and sprint and run as fast as I can, hope I win. And, the way he came across, like, he really, like I said, he was really patient, because, like, for example, learning drills, I didn't know how to do a lot of these drills, and patient. And the way he just explained himself and the way how he did feedback, and I'm like, and then I think as soon as, that second year when he's like, I promise I'll get you fast, and I got really fast and did really well, it was kind of like right there kind of solidified, that trust and bond. And also too, like, he helped me quite a bit, like, during my sporting career, because, like, I mean, I was a full-time student, still trying to work, like, 15 plus hours a week to support myself and put myself through school. And there's a lot of things that I couldn't afford, like, going to certain meets and things like that, and even to pay for coaching. And he actually, kind of just waived that or helped me. He's actually, him and another, one of my, therapists, a physiotherapist that I would see, but they're the ones, that helped me actually make it on my first, national team. It was a self-funded team, and, I couldn't, and my school wasn't paying for it. And I was like, well, I can't go because I can't afford this. And they're both like, there's no chance you're not going to do this. Like, this can open so many doors for you. And they helped me, generate the funds to get to go there. And then it was just, we just kind of developed a bond. And then he became not only like a coach, but also like a mentor, where I learned a lot from him. And I took the opportunity to, every interaction I had with him, like, for example, I would do a sprint. He'd give me feedback, and I would stand beside him and watch the other athletes and learn from him.
That's cool. I mean, if you had the chance to go back to like your junior, senior high experience and be the coach that didn't appear until later in your life, if you could like be the coach that the younger version of you needed, would you do that? Or would you just let life take its course and wait?
I would let life take its course. Like, to go, I know, like, we always talk about if we could go back in time, but I feel like everything happens, how it happens, when it happens, for its own purpose. Like, I feel like had I come earlier into the sport, because I started a little bit later in my sporting career, started a little bit later, but had I come earlier, maybe I may have taken things for granted, or maybe I wasn't physically and mentally prepared for it. So, there's a saying how nothing happens before its time. So I would go through the same, pathway.
I like that. Cause like, I mean, if we can just own how our life has been, and then it's like what you reflected on before with control what you can control, and make the most of it, and look at things positively, like, then we're more positioned for our leaps going forward. So I'm going to ask you a tricky question because it might make you think a bit. In the last week or so, what's the thing that's made you the happiest? The thing that's just brought you the most joy?
Oh, I mean, this is easy. Within the last, I think, well, it's been more than last week, but since I've been home, I've had more time to engage with my family, which is one of the biggest things for me, is that being able to engage with them, for my little ones, like things like that. And then also everything slowing down for me to take the time to, develop and grow as an individual.
I like that. And especially with like showcasing like how important family is for you. I know that I saw one of your posts a while back. I think it was like you and your daughter or something like that. And she was walking on like a tree, like a fallen tree or something.
Yeah, a big log. Yeah.
Yeah, and it was just like sort of that guidance, that that assurance, that trust that was showcased there. I was thinking to myself, I'm like, we don't see enough of that on social media. Like, why is nobody showcasing that? Why do we have to do some perfect selfie and do the duck lips and show our butt? Why can't we show how to why can't we show how to like give kids independence and confidence and the ability that they have? What is your most favorite thing about being a dad?
I think it's being able to, because I mean, I believe in, like, obviously they're gonna have to make their own mistakes and they're gonna have to go through their challenges, but I enjoy the moment of being able to give them guidance, help them forge their own path without me directly influencing them, and then just watching them grow, watching them, like, it's kind of crazy where, like, they can take on so many of your traits and things that you do, your habits. Like, I'll see sometimes, like, they'll do certain things, like, where I've never done it in front of them or, taught that to them. And then they just do a lot of things that I would do or like respond how I respond, move like how I move. So I think that's kind of cool. So I'm really excited for the journey of just watching them develop to seeing, what they become.
So what's the funnest thing that you've ever done, like as a family, or just something that stands out to you as like, wow, that was awesome, if you can think of one thing?
Well, one of the biggest things that we do is we always have like a dance off. I'm a bit of a dance machine, so, yeah, well, like I play some music and then like, my little one, she always loved to dance and they love to dance and sing and stuff like that. And like stuff that like I like to do too. So, I think one of the most fun things that we like to do is we'll have our own, dance off or and we'll do it for like an hour, 2 hours of just dancing and moving and, enjoying yourself.
When did your love for dance begin? Like, clearly, if you're a dance machine, what's the origin story of that?
I'm like an undercover dance machine, but like, what? I just always, tell you the truth, it was just always like, just moving. Tell you where, even doing kind of like a dance and moving, a lot of that came from, so back in the day, I used to watch, those old school, like, martial arts, like, kung fu movies, where, like, they're talking, but not really talking, and, every time they jump, you hear, like, the whipping of their clothes and stuff, and one of my favorite, martial arts movies to watch was, The Drunken Master, where he would do kind of like, he would do, like, different movements, and, like, how he's almost dancing, and then he's fighting at the same time. So, I'd always used to copy that, and try and like do that as well too. And then I just enjoyed music, so engaging music, dancing, moving. So I think that's just, yeah, it's just something that I guess I was born with and just enjoy doing. Would I jump into a dance competition? I don't know, but I do really enjoy it.
So in my own experiences, like I remember, like you talk about sports and how it's kind of an escape, and I value sports for the same thing, and like just being creative, like whether it's like making music or dancing or just like being a little bit different, like not going down like the pre-paved path. Did you find that enjoying just being fun and silly kind of helped you in the same way that sports did?
100%. I felt, obviously there's times of joking and times to be serious, but I felt that when I was able to start making light of situations and really, smile, especially coming from an area where, there's always anger and stuff like that and frustration. But then when I started to learn to make light of situations and find the funny in things, I felt like I was way more relaxed. I didn't take on life's problems too seriously. I mean, I think it transfers to sport too. Like, obviously, when I'm in competition, I'm in competition mode and, I'm serious and getting the job done. But I learned to have fun. I find that that's something that a lot of people probably miss nowadays, is of just having fun. Like, even, times you don't want to smile, but, just smile. And I'm not saying like, you just walk around with your Joker and smiling, perma smile 24/7, but I mean, just enjoying life and just having fun with it.
Well, I like that. And something that kind of stood out to me is like we were reflecting on the things, the moments that you felt joy. And a lot of the people that I've talked to, they've been like, oh yeah, I got to spend all this time with family. But now like life is going to change. Like facilities are going to open up. Our schedule is going to get different. Are you the kind of person that mandates a certain amount of family time to keep your sanity, or what's your schedule like? What happens for you?
Well, I find that, and I've always said this, is that, I understand everyone's out there and they're grinding, they're trying to do their thing, they're trying to get to a certain level and, do great things. But, the two things I always say is like, one, you always, like, despite how busy you are, you should always find time to take care of yourself. Because I mean, if your body, your mind that's helping you, trying to achieve these things and coast through the day, right? And if you're not taking care of yourself, the one thing that the vehicle that's helping you achieve these things and get there, then, then you end up in a bad situation. So that's one thing. And then the other thing I'll say is, that I take the time to, how should I word this? In regards to family, in regards to family, that I need to have a time, not only for my sanity, but also too, it's not fair to them that I'm busy all the time and can't engage to them, right? Maybe it's nothing wrong. So like, I need to make sure I have that time. And I mean, I'm a big family advocate. I enjoy engaging with family. Like when we have, Christmases or birthdays or certain holidays and stuff, like, I'm just like, with all the family, whether it's games or like, I got a lot of nephews and nieces, so like, playing games with them, wrestling or whatever. So I'm a big family man or family oriented. So, I feel like it's a part of me that if I didn't have, I would be lost about it.
Yeah. Well, I mean, I think everybody has like a certain structure of family, whether it's like their genetic family, their friend family, whatever it is. Maybe it's like people that they met through sports that are just, it's a tight crew. But I think sometimes we lose track of how important those people are, like how they help us to get through life's things. Like you got to have people that you can talk to. Yeah, exactly. And kind of on that topic, I'm curious, when you're at the Olympics, you talked about how you're waving at the camera and stuff. Who do you think was the person that was cheering for you the loudest on the other side of the TV?
Hard to think. I mean, because I have a pretty tight circle of family and friends that are really supportive of what I do. And I mean, I've been in different competitions where I've heard them going crazy. So I don't think I would pinpoint to one individual, because when I was at the games and even being on the television, I mean, my phone was blowing up from people like, I saw you, well wishes and everything. So I feel like those that know me and especially know my journey, they all were just as excited seeing me.
Well, I like that, and it kind of saves your butt from singling anybody out, because, I mean, if you include everybody, that's like,
everyone's just waiting, like,
they're just waiting in suspense. When you talk about, like, being able to hear in the crowd, like, I know I've played different sports, and I've been able to hear a family member or something. I'm like, man, was that ever funny when I heard that? Like, do you have any memories like that from, like, your sporting life?
Actually, in track and field. So, in track and field, when I would compete, I'd have these moments where I would get in the zone where it was like this tunnel vision. I couldn't see anything. The stands could be full and people yelling and screaming, and I can't hear anything. And I remember, I was getting ready for a race, and gun goes off, and I'm sprinting, and I started to tighten up a bit, and everyone's screaming and cheering, and out of the entire crowd, my coach yelled, "Relax!" And I picked up his voice, everyone yelling and screaming. I just remember I was like this, and all of a sudden I just dropped my shoulders and then accelerated. And it was like, that was crazy to me, like how I was able just to pick his voice out, during that competition. I mean, and there's a lot of people like screaming, it was so loud. So, that's the one moment I think I remember the most.
Well, that's cool. Like how you could just single that out and how it actually worked. Like, there's lots of times when somebody yells something, it's the right thing, and it's hard to make that connection. It's hard to single it out. Can you think of other times when you've experienced that tunnel vision, when you're just so dialed in and focused?
It went from track and field to even bobsledding. Like bobsledding, it happened, especially at the start, it happened so quick. And I wouldn't say I picked out someone saying anything, but I've had moments where like I'm locked in, and then we're pushing. As you're getting in, it's like everyone's getting in fast. Like you're in and down and not moving around so that you can have great speed, great velocity, and you're not disturbing the sled, right? And I remember I've had a lot of these moments where just before the pilot gets in, just as the second guy is getting in, everything just slows right down. And I could see every single thing that was happening from if its spike got caught on the cowling, like part of the sled, or, how they slid in, if they're stepping down, like I could see everything. And it was like, it would slow down for that moment, that brief moment as they're getting in. And then as I'm about to sit down, it speeds right back up. And then I've had moments where like, I just went hard. We had a good push. And then I don't remember what happened. I just remember pulling the brakes on the ball.
Holy crap.
And I didn't pass out either. So.
Well, I mean, it happens fast. Like, I look at that sport and I'm like, oh my goodness. Like, I have a hard enough time, like, riding a go-kart, never mind a bobsleigh. So how did that start for you? Was bobsleigh something that was always on your radar, or was it just that you were recruited for it?
Yeah, it was the first time anyone ever talked to me about bobsledding. I think it was back in 2005 or 6. An athlete came up to me and was like, you should try and do bobsledding. I'm like, winter sport? I'm like, yeah, I'm good. Like, I'm a summer sport athlete. And I shut it down. And, I was preparing, trying to get ready for the Olympic Games 2008. So leading up to that, having some great seasons. 2007, I went to World University Games and won a bronze medal in the 100 meters. Then I went to World Championships and ran 4x1 for Canada in Japan. And then leading into the Olympic year, I'm like, this is my chance to make the games, and put a lot of pressure on myself. And as I was preparing, I got hurt, a hamstring injury, and then I was still pushing myself. And all of a sudden, I got like my hamstring recovered, but then I think I caused more damage, like physiologically and psychologically, like where I just burnt myself out. So I was doing races, competing, and I was getting slower, weaker, couldn't figure out what was going on. All of a sudden, I went to a specialist. I don't know, I had adrenal burnout. It was just accumulation of physical and mental stress. Try to get better for the games, or for the Olympic trials. Got there, going to the next round, felt like I wasn't too bad, but I knew I wasn't 100%. And then, time popped up. I missed out by 200ths of a second, which was pretty devastating. And, then, it was kind of like, what I'm going to do, and took some moment to kind of grieve with it. And I was like back to the drawing board. Then I got introduced to bobsledding, was recruited out to come to a camp, went to this camp and tested. And, at the time it was the fastest that any recruit had pushed. Then, trained in the summer, made the team, like October of 2009, and then went to the games, that February.
Damn, that's fast.
Turnaround.
Going into a sport like that, was there any fear of like the risks or the like the actual aspect of bobsleigh is like nuts? You were you scared at all?
Tell you the truth, I wasn't scared. One is because I was like, what, if I'm going to do this thing, I have to fully embrace it. I can't go with any type of fear, because as soon as I have any fear, which leads to doubt, which is going to affect my performance, my ability to fully buy in and get into the sport. And so I wouldn't say I was fearful. It also helped that at the time, like, all my pilots have been like the best, like, one of the best pilots in the world. So I was fortunate that I was with good pilots. I think I only had one moment where I was a little bit nervous, where it was my first year out, and we were out in Whistler and we're doing training runs, and I'm with my pilot, It was Pierre Luders. And, all of a sudden, there's another athlete, I had a day off and there's another pilot that kept crashing and he was crashing, this other brakeman. So, the high performance director at the time came up to me, he's like, Neville, there's other guys that are crashing quite a bit. You think you can give them a break and you jump in with, this other pilot? And right away I was like, I got so nervous. I was like, you mean the guy that was crashing all the time? Like, yeah, I'm like, and, I'll tell the story like, where like, so this happened and I mean, I'm nervous now because I'm like, this guy keeps crashing. I've never crashed before. And I've seen a few guys already that crashed and they look like they're in great shape. And I remember sitting in front of this guy. He's just, kind of like trying to shake it off and trying to see if he's, I think, get himself right. And I was just like, hey, Neville, you can't allow this to happen. You gotta stop this right. So I remember I walked up and I was like, hey, how you feeling? He's like, oh, I'm okay. I was like, listen, you don't need to be a hero today, okay? I was like, there's plenty of fight to fight another day. There's nothing wrong with you taking a break, stopping for the day, reflecting, and coming back even stronger. There's no shame in that. And he's like, yeah, you know what, Neville, you got a point. I think I'm gonna shut it down. I just remember I was like, I can't believe that worked. But yeah, it was like that. I think that was my most fearful moment. Even when I crashed, I wasn't even nervous at all either.
Well, I think that's a funny way to look at it. Just like you kind of used your deductive reasoning. You're like, oh, based on your crash history, maybe take it easy.
Nervous system's burnt out. Take a break, man. Take a break.
Oh, yeah. So in your pursuits of athletic excellence, that's the best way that I can call it, because it's like, it doesn't seem to matter which sport you went into. You had the mindset to take it head on and you were the best version of yourself. Like, did you ever have a day that wasn't your best day? Did you have a day when it was just like shit wasn't working, or you had something that was just in your way? Can you think of any memories?
I've had tons of those, tons of moments where just I wasn't there. There's like, say there's like, life things going on or having like some physical injuries that was holding back, and where I was just like, man, like, I know like my knees used to be like really, really, started to become really problematic where it was hard to like, for example, sprint. And, there's one point where I was kind of like, man, I have to keep doing this because like how bad they were. And, I ended up taking 2 years off from the sport just to rehab them, my knees, to get them healthy because I hadn't taken a break. So I've been competing now from 2003, 2004. I hadn't taken a break up until after the 2014 season. So I've been going, 13 years? 14 years. No, what am I saying? 11 years. 11 years. And, I just hadn't taken a break. And I remember when I took that break and it was nice actually to not have to worry about thinking about and training for sport, but more just doing rehabbing. And when I came back, it was like, I was at like an all-time best. It was like, I was feeling so healthy. I was rolling, like, it was probably my 2 seasons that I competed after the 2014 season, the 2 years, my last 2 years, was probably my best, season. Or I guess I did three extra seasons, but the 2 before that was probably my best seasons ever. So it was like I was able to, take a break, reflect, get healthy, and go again. But I think that was probably, that was one of the moments where I felt kind of like really low and like where I was like, man, things aren't going. Like, I mean, I've had quite a few of those moments, but then the other thing is too, that I always have to look back and say, what's your goal? What are you trying to accomplish? What do you want to do? And when I look back at that and understanding that, you know what, it's not going to, like, life isn't easy, especially when you're trying to be successful and do great things. You're always going to be challenged, but it's finding strength from those challenges and embrace. I always say, like, embrace your challenges or your pain, your imperfections, because they become valuable life lessons, and they will actually help you develop and grow and become more resilient to overcome, like, the different challenges you may face.
Absolutely. And I mean, I think it's important to put value on rest, because like whether it be
100%.
resting for like 3 minutes instead of 1 minute 50 in your workout in the gym, or resting a year from a career just to like keep yourself at the top of your game, like resting in all facets of life isn't a shameful thing. Like sometimes it brings out our very best potential, which I think is cool. It's just sometimes we forget. It's that hustle bustle life. It's that if you stop, you're not living up to your potential or something. But when it comes down to it, there's so much more on the other side if you know how to reach it. If you know that you need your time with your family, or if you know that you need recovery, or if you know your limits, then you can assess those things and like keep it moving forward.
Well, even with training, like, I know like a lot of athletes are always worried about, if I take a day off, they feel like they're going to fall off the face of the earth, or, they're going to fall behind. But there's nothing wrong with rest. And the thing about this too is especially if you're a trained athlete, you've been trained for a long time, that you taking a day or taking a week, it's not going to set you all the way back. Like, especially when you have things, you're getting injured, or your nervous system is getting taxed. Like, that's your body telling you, like, listen, take a break. Like, when I took 2 years off, and I was rehabbing, but I was doing tons of drills, and I was doing like a lot of coaching, like speed coaching, so I was always doing demos and things like that. And I remember the year before I came back, I was like, man, I haven't sprinted like really hard for a while. Like, I was doing tons of drills and stuff. I was like, I was doing some testing for some athletes I had. So I was like, the lights were set up, and like, let me see what happens. So I did like a little warm up, and I went and I sprinted to the lights, and I think I was only 600 to 700 off my personal best. So I mean, once the body, and I mean, I was warming up and obviously moving, and like the body remembers, your muscle memory, and like I said, like taking the time to actually rest and recover can actually do you a lot more good than pushing yourself. And I'm talking from personal experience of me burning out and not making it to the game. But a lot of people don't realize the value of rest.
For sure. When I was looking at your profile, I saw that you're doing some video production. You got a project going on. Tell me more about that. So
I'm doing a show. It's like it's a story hive series that we're going to do, which is just called The Right Way Show. So pretty much it's kind of like where, like, I'm retired now as an athlete, but I still have passion for sport, and I want to engage with other champions of their sport and other athletes, to talk and do like a deep dive of their journey, like their ups, their downs, and things like that. So because I find, like, we always see the athletes and we see them competing, but a lot of times we don't really know, like, people don't always really know what we go through and what we have to deal with in order to become successful. Like, like things like therapy, I've had friends where they thought when I was getting therapy, it was like, oh yeah, it's all relaxing. Like, no man, there's nothing relaxing about this. Like, this is grind and pain and stuff, or even just traveling and competing and thinking, we're on vacation. Like, no, I'm at work. So this show is me following other athletes, learning about them, learning about their sport, and then at the end, I would do like a challenge to a challenge that they would have, that whether it be basketball, 3-point shooting, or wrestling, or hockey, or whatever it may be, and I tried out. But due to COVID, we had to kind of change the format where it was more like a interview type style. But it still turned out well, where I was able to still engage them. But the only part was that I didn't get to learn the activity with them, or learn their sport, and do the sport as well, or do something, a challenge in it.
Yeah. Well, I mean, even with that slight pivot, you still get the value from it. Like, I mean, it's very similar to having a podcast. You get to learn from people's experiences, and there's a challenge at the end of this show too. So you'll get to see that in a few minutes. But
all right.
what I want to know is like, what has that experience taught you about yourself so far? Like when you're learning about other people, it kind of teaches you about you. So what's your take on that?
I think what I learned from that is how similar well, as athletes, but not only as athletes, but outside of sports, but how similar we are in a lot of aspects where our mindset or approach, you know, obstacles and challenges are. So it was nice to kind of connect with them and learn that. I always believe that, especially with every experience, every connection that I have with someone, I always want it to be a learning opportunity. And a learning opportunity for me to develop and grow as an individual and learn, like, you know, you can learn so many like different techniques, strategies. And I find that when I speak, especially when I do public speaking, if I'm talking about an experience, I always try to tie it into other people's experience, because a lot of times people looking for an authentic connection to be like, man, like they went through the same stuff. Like we might be in different fields of play or work, but they're going through the same type of thing I'm going through.
Well, that's awesome in that you say that, because I think the first time that I came across your account was because I saw that you were doing public speaking, and I was like, this guy's cool. I like him, because I like the art of like public speaking and making that connection. You talk about the value of connection, and what that does for people, and seeing like person one career versus person in the other career, and they have those connecting pieces. In your public speaking, do you have like a moment that stood out to you, or like a favorite event that you've spoken at, or just someone in the crowd that just kind of you can't get out of your head?
I mean, I've had some really great ones. I mean, if you look at, it's like this. I speak to all sorts of demographics and populations, whether it be young students, athletes, in the corporate world. I think I've had two situations that stuck out to me. One was with, when I was talking to, some students, and, I was a kid that, you know, like I said, I had my challenges. Like, one thing I had a speaking problem, so it was hard for me to really articulate myself. So I didn't speak as much, or, it was hard for me to pronounce certain words. So I'd always have to really think of what I'm saying to have the right words so I can actually pronounce it. And I end up like I have this passion to help youth, because I'm like, man, there's so much untapped potential, and there's so many kids like me that grew up like me that are struggling, or they just need some positive reinforcement or guidance. And I remember I spoke at this one school, and I usually leave a little bit of time for questions. And, you know, one student they're asking me like about bullying and things like that. And I was telling them things that I went through and how I overcame it. And, you know, this is what, you know, by embracing my pains and my struggle, like I said, it made me more resilient, more, focused, more determined to not become a statistic, or not become a product of my environment, or just to give up. And, at the end, one of the teachers came up to me kind of, you know, tearing up. And she's like, yeah, one of our students who's struggling a lot, came up to them and said, how I helped change their life, because, you know, they got inspired to, you know, not give up and keep pushing through. And I mean, I'm like, I look at it like, you know, and I've talked to like thousands and thousands of kids. And if I go into a room and, you know, say there's 100, 500, 1,000 individuals, and I'm able to connect with one individual specifically that I can help create a change, or to change the perspective, then I've done my job. So I mean, that was one of the moments that stuck out for me with like a younger crowd. And then as for older, one individual came up to me as well too, and they said, you know, they liked my talk, and they said, you know, they could tell it was really authentic. I was like, really? And they're like, yeah, they've been to a lot of conferences, and spoken to, heard a lot of people speak, and this was the first time that they saw someone's eyes the entire time. Like, saw my eyes the entire time. And then, like, I knew you were being authentic and speaking from the heart, which is always the goal, right? Is to tell like, when I speak, I don't read off on a paper or anything. Like, sometimes based on the topic, I might have some notes, but usually I just speak from my experience and speak from the heart. Sometimes I might have a thought on one topic, and then I'll also like kind of veer on another kind of different thought. So, those are, like, I guess, the two moments that really stuck out to me.
Well, that's a cool reflection. I mean, like, most times it is just one person that makes the whole difference. Like, you'll do your speech and you'll be in front of a bunch of people, and it's like, you remember the one kid that said something, even though there might have been like five, or you remember the one professional out there that was like, whoa, that really like hit a note with me. How did your speaking career or like endeavor begin? Like, how did you get into speaking in the first place?
Well, I remember the first, like, I was just, like, when I was a younger kid, like, when I'd be, like, in church, and they'd ask us to, like, speak on something or whatever. I remember just being nervous all the time, and I'm like, man, I don't want to do this, and then, so I started to build up, courage from there, and then, I got invited out to a few events where, like, I was teaching sprinting, or, you know, and they give a little talk, and then I found that, also too, I found that I started getting to, like, a mentorship role. I was just talking to a lot of people, like, about life and just different things. And then I started, and that passion, I started to develop that passion. So, like I said, like, I heard a saying where the richest place in the world is a graveyard, because a lot of ideas and potential and, you know, new ways of thinking or new ways of life has been lost, where people weren't able to get that out there. And I know for myself where, like, you know, I saw how I struggled, and I didn't always have the greatest guidance to help me achieve my potential. Cause I mean, you know, it's not a matter of, you know, well, if I had this, I would have had this. Like, I don't think that way, but it's kind of like, you know, there's other things I probably could have tapped into or done had I had the right influence or the right people in my life to guide me. So my passion, that's when my passion came, because I would encounter individuals that they have so much potential, and it's kind of like, man, you got so much potential and you're wasting. You need to tap into it. Like, you, like, don't become a victim to your circumstance. You can rise above this and do great things. And then that's all, like, you know, a lot of people just need that reassurance, that positive reinforcement. So that's where that passion, I guess, for speaking came from, because I thought about for myself what else I could have done, maybe, or how many people's potential has never been tapped into, because they hadn't had the right person come to them with that positive reinforcement to let them know that, like, they're going to be okay, or they can be greater than what they think.
Well, that's kind of a cool reflection to make, because it ties right into your experience with that coach that kind of like was the game changer for you. Like, he saw that potential in you, and like, it would be crazy to deny that, like, it didn't influence you to see potential in other people because of how your life changed, or just like the skills that you realized that you really, really had, despite, like, a person can be really positive, and then there's like that extra 10% that other people see in us. And so to be surrounded by people that see that 10% makes a big difference. Do you have any like training partners or like athletic buddies that have kind of been like a stronghold or a pillar in your life?
I'll be honest. So when I was in track and field, I had my training partner, his name is Ryan Barnett. So we trained with each other. Like, you know, there's a period, like, I was a more mature athlete at the time, so I was like, you know, by far, like, excelling further than him. But I remember, when he told me he wanted to do track, and I was like, you know, I was like, yeah, man, like, this guy has potential. And, he was kind of like a little bit of a rough background as well. So I brought him up with me, and he started doing workouts with me. And then, like, you know, finally the following year I introduced him to my coach, and then he became my training partner. And there's a period where now, you know, he's catching up to me and then starting to excel past me. But we helped keep each other honest. Because even though he was starting to get faster than I was, he knew he couldn't sleep on me. Where if he's slacking, that I'm gonna beat him. So I think it kept us both motivated because I had someone else to continue to chase after. Because after we kind of parted ways, where he was still doing track and I switched to bobsledding, I did a lot of training by myself. Like I stayed in Edmonton and did all my dry line training, my sprinting, my lifting. Every so often I'd have a training partner that would be with me, but then they didn't stay or they left. And so I did a lot on my own, and then I would commute back and forth between Edmonton and Calgary. So like, for example, I'd get up early Monday morning, go down to Calgary, do a sprint workout, a lift workout, and then come back home. So, that's the only time I'd really have a training partner, but for the most part, I had to really develop a lot of intrinsic motivation and drive, which it wasn't hard because I knew what my goals were and what I was focused on. But yeah, to be able to do really well.
And I can tell from like what we've discussed so far, like you've got goals on your mind quite often because it kind of helps you like stay dialed in no matter what life throws your way. What are your goals for like the next few years? Like, do you have goals on your mind today?
I do. Like, I always have goals, but, and this is something I was talking about where like I set goals that I focus on the process to get there. But I do have a goal. So I've always worked on what I call, and this is, I've been working on this since I was young, my big three, which is speaking, coaching, and therapy. So, I still have goals of what I want to do in that realm. But once again, it is a process, and it's not always the easiest thing for it to happen. Well, I mean, your career or successful career doesn't always happen overnight. So I know it's a process, especially because like I was so focused on my main goals where I was competing as an athlete, and now that I've transitioned into outside of sports, so now I have goals I've been working at, and then I have new goals. So, I guess a short story, long story short, yes, I do have new goals, that I'm working towards.
Well, I think my favorite part about that summary was like the big three, to like make it simple, like not branch out so much that your head gets just cluttered with all these things in your mind. And like, I can tell you're passionate about those big three things. So it's like, it totally makes sense to have those as your items. I have two more questions for you. And the second last one is, if you could give one piece of advice to someone on how to live their life to the fullest in the most authentic way, what would that piece of advice be?
I would say embrace, like I said it earlier too, but embrace your pains and your imperfections, because it's those pains and those imperfections that help develop your character and can create, and if you allow it and if you work at it, can make you a stronger, more resilient individual, and will help you stay focused in achieving whatever you want to achieve.
I like that. The next thing is you're going to give my audience a challenge for the day. We talked about a challenge. And so what I'll get you to do is you're going to say your challenge for today is, and then just lay it out for them.
All right. Let me see now. Okay. I guess the challenge for today, is that what you want to say?
You betcha. Yeah.
Okay. So your challenge for the day is to find something positive daily. Despite whatever you're going through, despite how difficult life can be, do your best to find the positive of a bad situation.
That is the best challenge. So I want to thank you so much for joining me today.
Thank you for having me.